Hello and welcome. My name's Campbell. This is Autodidactic channel. Hope you're having a fantastic day. And of course, autodidactic means to be self-educated. And we all need to be self-educated because if we're not, the only choice we have left is to believe what other people tell us. And of course, 99% of what other people tell us is just opinion based on nothing. So it's probably not a good idea to do that. And of course, as always, a big, huge thanks to everyone who does support me, this channel, and my work. I really do appreciate you all. It does go a long way and helps me, keep producing this information, basically. So thank you to everyone who supports me through PayPal, Patreon, my merch store, and just people who share, give me likes, comments, all that kind of stuff. Get this material out there. It is very much appreciated. And if you did want to contribute, there are links below. But please keep sharing this content out there because I'm a little bit shadow banned on YouTube. And also, I'm now on the Syncretism Society, guys. So I'll leave the link below. Go check that out. Started up by Santos Bonacci, and I'm putting 2 episodes a week up of ancient history or alternative history. So go and check that out as well. And so today, as you'll see behind me, we've got a nice star fort. And I wanted to get into star forts, but also more importantly, star cities. And the fact that pretty much every single old world city that I've found anyway, they're all star cities. They were all big walled cities with stars attached to them. They had satellite stars around them. And they were all part of a big network. So let's jump in and have a look at star cities across the realm. So here we are on Wikipedia, and we're under Bastion Fort because the original name for star forts was Bastion Fort, and that's because they're going to tell us that these are military installations. But the reasons that they've got the name star forts is because when you look at them from above, they look like stars. They are very precise geometric shapes and designs, and what they are for we will get into later. Today we'll just have a look at what they are and what the narrative is. So a bastion fort, or a trace Italienne, is a fortification in a style that evolved during the modern period of gunpowder when the cannon came to dominate the battlefield. It was first seen in the mid-15th century in Italy. Some types, especially when combined with ravelins and other outworks, resemble the related star fort of the same era. The design of the fort is normally a polygon with bastions at the corners of the walls. The design of the fort is normally a polygon with bastions at the corners of the walls. These outcroppings eliminated protected blind spots called dead zones and allowed fire along the curtain from positions protected from direct fire. Many bastion forts also feature cavaliers, which are a raised secondary structure based entirely inside the primary structure. So there's a bit of it. The origins, it says, their predecessors or medieval fortresses were usually placed high on hills. From there, arrows were shot at the enemies. The enemy's hope was to either ram the gate or climb over the wall with ladders and overcome the defenders. For the invading force, these fortifications proved quite difficult to overcome, and accordingly, fortresses occupied a key position in warfare. So they've sort of changed. What they're doing here is they're trying to link star forts, these things you can see on the side here, to forts, to things of war. And as we get into this, you will start to realize that these Star forts have nothing to do with war. Bastion fortifications were further developed in the late 15th and early 16th centuries, primarily in their response to the French invasion of the Italian peninsula. The French army was equipped with new cannon and bombards that were easily able to destroy traditional fortifications built in the Middle Ages. Star forts were employed by Michelangelo in the defensive earthworks of Florence, and refined in the 16th century by Baldassare Peruzzi and Vincenzo Scamozzi. The design spread out of Italy in the 1530s and 1540s. It was employed heavily throughout Europe for the following three countries. Italian engineers were heavily in demand throughout Europe to help build the new fortifications. The late 17th century architects Menno van Cohorn and especially Vauban Louis the 14th, the 16th, Vauban Louis the 16th, military engineer, are considered to have taken the form to its logical extreme. Fortress acquired ravelins and redoubts, bonnets and lunettes, tenelles and tenalions, counterguards and crownworks, and hornworks, and blah 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 blah. The star-shaped fortification had a formative influence on the pattern of the Renaissance ideal city, and that's all they give us. So pretty much what they're saying here is these were all built around the in the 1500s, and other sources say that they were built up to about the mid 1600s. And it says here, basically the new type of fortification was used in the Mediterranean after the siege of 1480. So they're listed down here in lots of wars in the 1500s. Then in Malta, there was a war in 1552. And it says Fort St. Elmo and Fort St. Michael were critical in the role of the Ottoman siege when it managed to hold out the bombardment for over a month, blah, blah, blah. Every time the Ottoman casualties were very high, it bought time for the next relief force. The star forts therefore played a critical, decisive role in the siege. And down here it says, after the fall of Venice to Napoleon, Corfu was occupied in 1797 by the French Republican armies. The now ancient fortifications was still some value at this point. So by 1800, just before 1800, they're calling them now ancient. So, we can say, from that they hadn't been building them, for at least 100 years, right? So that'd make it 1697. So, they were built sort of 1550s. They say they started building them. And let's say they built them up to the 1700s. So they were building them for 150 years. And of course, this was just in Europe. That they only talk about Europe. There are stories attached because now we've found star forts everywhere, guys. They're everywhere. They're all throughout the Americas, Europe, Africa, Australia, Asia. They're just everywhere. And so this narrative, that it is changing as we do our research. They're changing their narrative, basically. There's a few pics here, so let's just bring these up quickly. We'll have a look. This is a map of Palmanova in 1593, and you can see here what have we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-sider. Very nice. Surrounded by a big star. Got these are what they call the Cavaliers, these pointy bits, and you can see it's a town inside there. In the middle they've got a castle, like a tower, and then they've got all their buildings around the outside. So this is a town, and so if this was built as a fort, why is there a whole town inside it? Is one question. This is the Citadel of Jaca in Spain, and what you'll find is this middle bit, this pentagon, is what we call the citadel. They're sort of, actually, I mean, this whole bit is really the citadel, because star forts are actually always attached to cities, and we'll get into that later. So the last one that we saw, this is like a star city, let's say that, and this is a citadel, obviously much smaller. And this is a 5-pointer, and as you can see, it's based on the number 5. So we've got 5 points, we've got a 5-pointed star, we've got a 5-sided pentagon inside here, 555. This is Bretagne, and this is in the Netherlands, in Groningen, restored in 1752. And again, they say that this was built as a fort, as a fort for war, to stop cannons. And you'll notice these are always surrounded by water, so this is where we get this moat narrative from. But moats weren't what we're told, as you'll find out with most of his story. But as you can see, we've got a 5-pointed star, and it's kind of got an extra bit here and this bit down here. It's like it's bursting out. I call these star bursts, but this is what we see in a lot of star forts. They're not just the center star. They are much, much more complex. And again, they tell us these were built, and they had to have been built quickly, right? These are massive. This is a town in the center of this one. Not a big town, but there's houses and everything in there. And yeah, they tell us they were built, obviously they would have had to be built pretty quickly if they were for war. And here they are. So that's the narrative. This is a star city. This is the plan of Tvrda. Tvrda in 1881 in Croatia. And you can see this is what I was talking about before. This is actually the star city here. Okay, with a big wall around it. We've got another star in here, and we've got buildings in here, and a citadel in the middle, or what we call cathedrals. And up here we have the star fort, and looks like that's the citadel, and we have this star fort bursting out, and they're always on water. And this is a picture of an old city, an old star fort. Bit of artwork. And so this is their explanation of a star fort and why it was built for war. They're saying there's no dead zones, so they're saying, oh, there's a dead zone here, but people up here can shoot down at them, and same here. And when you have angles, they're saying there's no dead zones. So I guess they're saying you can have people here and they can shoot in here, and people can shoot in here, and so that's what they're saying. That's the narrative. And they also say that they deflected cannonballs. This is a fortification plan of Coevorden from the 17th century. And as you see, we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've got a hexagon in the middle here. On the outside, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And in the middle here, we've got the citadel, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-sided, surrounded by a 7-sided star with another 7-sided star, and then another rotated one underneath. See, it's been turned. How many ever degrees, and so we have the points coming out here. And then on the outside we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 big points, and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 small points. So surrounded by a 14-pointer star, but all based on the number 7, which is interesting when this was just built to deflect cannonballs and kill people, or so they say. Here's another old map of a star city or star citadel. Well, this one's actually big, looks like a town in there. And this is Nové Zámky in Slovakia, 1663. This is a depiction of Yeticule, 1458. This says it's the oldest known star-shaped fortification. And this one, it's not very starry, it's pretty much a square. Big gates, so we do have a lot of the features, but there you go, 1458. And this is a bit on the, how they've, basically the narrative to say why it's a fort for war. This. Here we have a plan of Geneva in 1841, and look at this. It's a star city. And when we started getting into this research, and it was only a couple of years ago, we didn't have any of these maps. These have all come out since. What we had was the stars, and we started going through old books and using Google Earth. And what we've discovered is pretty much every single old world city, like Olomouc from Moravia in the Czech Republic, they were all star cities, all of them. And this had nothing to do with war. Here's another one, Venetian walls of Nicosia in Cyprus, 1597. And of course, the Statue of Liberty sits on a star. That's an 11-pointed star. And she also sits on a man-made island, which is a star fort. We can have a look at that as well. New York City. New York had a star fort in Battery Park. They call it Battery Park now because another name for forts in the army is a battery. So often when you see the word battery, it means that there was or used to be, was or is a star fortification. So let's have a look at some star forts. And as we have here, we have a picture, and this is Casale, and it's a star city. As you can see down here, we have a big, a 6-pointed citadel with a hexagon in the middle, and another star over here at the top. And of course we've got all these, what they're called cavaliers and different other bits and pieces coming off, even a few bits in the water here. Villers. And if we come up here, you'll see this is in 1652, or is that a J? And it says the king, so Roy is king. I'm learning to speak many languages as I do this. The Cedar, the king in September, and again, is that a J? 1682. So that's what we call a star city, completely walled, and the citadel here. This is an actual star fort. And this one is the Castle of Good Hope in South Africa. And this is the thing, right? These are all clearly the same construction, but some are called citadels, some are castles, some are forts, all these different, names that they give them, but they're all the same thing. And you can see how big this is, the height of the walls compared to these cars. They're not small constructions. These are buildings, so this is all 2-story buildings on the inside, or 3-story, there you go, 3-story. And even on the outside you can see there's another big wall that comes down here, and then we have the water. So this one's still got a bit of water, but they've cut it off up around the top here. This is the Citadel of Lille in France, and you can see this is a 5-pointer. But see underneath, this is a shot from Google Earth. See underneath, you can see these walls poking out of the forest. It looks like there's a bit of water still there. But see along there, you can see that angled wall down here, especially up this side. So this was a lot bigger, and this is what we find as well with stars. I don't really like calling them forts because they're not, but these stars, they're multi-layered. So what, most of them have been buried basically. This is only the top of it, and always connected to water. This is Fort Jefferson, and this one is out in the ocean, clearly, basically off the Florida Keys, 200 miles off the Florida Keys. And this little baby is the largest red brick building in the United States, consisting of at least 60 million red bricks. Okay, out in the middle of the ocean here. And look, they've even built a moat in the middle of the ocean, which is quite interesting. Now this stuff, I think this is obviously later construction. Looks like an oyster farm or something. But yeah, the story is that this was built as a fort to defend, America and people coming into America. But I mean, and you'll see there's lots of these stars in the water. But if this is a fort, now maybe they have cannons. But how far can a cannon shoot? Because if you're in a boat, all you do is you just sail around just outside the range of their cannons, and this fort is now completely useless. And of course, how did they get the bricks there? Well, the story is that they brought them in on ships. Ships were bringing them in as their ballast and dropping them off. That's what they tell us. 60 million bricks. How many voyages do you think it would take? So as we get into this, you'll probably start to realize that the narrative they give us, I don't believe it at all. It is completely and provably false. This is Neuf Brisac, 1705, and this one's cool because it's got a crown. It's been crowned. And again, a big star city here. You can see these are all buildings and houses. So all these numbers are the houses, and these are buildings, and there is down here, it tells us what they all are, but it's in French. So this is what cities used to look like. So again, this is, how are they going to explain that this was built as a fort? And when you see the size of this thing, I mean, you can imagine these, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got 4 by 4, so 16 houses, right? Plus the 3 roads, and it's not even the complete width. Big construction, right? And they say they were all built in a period of about 150. Let's give them 200 years. I mean, let's give them 500 years. It's still impossible. I believe this is New York or New Amsterdam. Yeah, here we go. So the Castello Plan, New Amsterdam, 1660. So, of course, that's New York, used to be called New Amsterdam, and here is the star, a 4-pointer, and this is now in the area they call Battery Park. And something else you may notice is this. This is a wall with these bastions on it. Okay, and so this wall, this was a walled city, and the star here, this was an old star city. And another thing you'll start to we'll start to get into, and you'll start to realize, is that most cities that we are told were founded, they weren't. They were actually found. And today in New York, there's actually places where they cannot build because they say that the ground stone is too hard. I'd say that's the remains of this wall. And you can see there was always also a waterway that went right in to New York, and I'm pretty sure that's not there anymore. I haven't been to New York myself. So there is New York as New Amsterdam, and it's even got these waterways still going up into it in 1660. This is a shot of Palmova. As you can see, these are all houses. So this is a full village inside of a star. and another shot. And just, look how perfectly designed they are. They're all completely symmetrical. Just the designing of one of these, let alone building it, designing and marking it out would be a mammoth task. Because, these things, this covers acres and acres. I'm not sure how big it is, but this is a whole town, a whole village. Sedan. And again, you can just see, and when you see pictures like this, it kind of destroys their narrative of it was all about, the Cavaliers and their line of sight. When you start getting this kind of stuff, I mean, how do they explain that they were doing that? Because it's just so much more material, and they've already got this star in the middle. So clearly a false narrative. You can see here lots of buildings along here, trees, all the red stuff's are buildings. And that's another thing you'll notice in this research is all the old world buildings are red brick. This is Groningen, and similar to Palmova, a whole city inside a star. Got the moat around it. And the star cities they're always, seem to be irregular shapes. They're not, regular fractal patterns and geometric designs like the actual stars are. But what you will notice is these huge buildings, right? We've got 4 of them. They are cathedrals, and they are another part of these star cities. They always have cathedrals in them. They always have water going through them. They're always walled. They always have these cavaliers. And they always have a star attached to them. And we can't see the star in this one. It may be down here. But there definitely would be one there. This is another star. Now, I'm not exactly sure where this one is. It may be in the UK, I think. But I'm not sure exactly where. And again, you can see the cars down here, so you can see the size of this thing. This is huge. And this is why, ones like this, they love to call them castles, because this one you can see it's sticking right up out of the ground. But still, clearly more of it going up, is underground. We can see the remnants of it here. But yeah, just massive structures. Obviously this one's got grass all over it. And just being used, as a ruin. This is the thing. Some are still used as forts, and some are ruins. So we get this weird narrative. This is Wismaria, is that how I say it? And this is like a ground view of a star city. And this would be from the 1600s. Most of these drawings are. And you can see the wall around here, Star City wall. Got our big turrets and towers, water going in here and here, always water around, and of course the cathedrals. And you can see it better now than in the last picture, but look at how oversized these things are compared to all the other buildings. And of course we see this today in our cities and towns. Diodonte, and here you go, Star City, and they've drawn in the cathedral. And interesting that they've put these lines pointing out of certain windows. Now they may be saying that that was a viewing tower. They probably will. I was a viewing tower, for killing people in a cathedral. But are they maybe saying something else? Because the thing about these star forts is they seem to be related to energy. Here is another Star City, the River St. Lawrence, and this is a good one because you can see the cavaliers on this are pretty small. So how the narrative for this was built for defense kind of evaporates when you see these types of star cities, because all the same stuff is built on the same design, but clearly nothing to do with defense. much more to do with, I would say, energies and the ground energies, because most of these, as far as we've looked into, that they are on ley lines and on energy vortexes and things. And this looks like the star down here. This is trajectum. And again, you know, how do they explain this is for defense? Big city inside a, you know, a star or a big walled city. And here we have the Citadel, and again a strange Citadel, that one. I think that's the Citadel anyway. Okay, this is a nice one. So this, I guess, is Turin. Okay, Turin, as in the shroud of. And here we have the star. And when you look at that, it just looks like it represents energy, right? And we have the walls, we have the moats, we have all the cavaliers around here, the buildings inside, even another extension here of the city that's completely walled, and we have these bits out here. So again, you know, how is this built as a defensive fort? Another one, you know, these things are just everywhere. And this is quite an intricate map. Everything, like when you look at these maps, it's all written down, but most of it's in foreign languages. Oh, this one's upside down. There we go. Let's see what year it was. 1547. So this one just fits their narrative as far as time, but you know, not really as far as how could they build this in that time frame when they were building all these hundreds of other ones across Europe, not to mention, you know, everywhere else across the realm. Another one. So you see star cities everywhere. Some of these pictures are a little bit small. Another one, Bruxelles. That's an interesting one. This one's in China, Canton. Look at this one. It's a big walled city with just, I believe these are houses. I've got the big temple here, another one there, and then I'm not sure what's going on up here, but interesting. Don't think we've got a date for it though. But you get so many weird, interesting pictures like this when you go back and look at these books, you know, from the 1600s and the 1500s. There's lots of them, and lots of them are filled with pictures. Here's another one. And again, you know, the irregular shape. How, you know, how could this possibly be for defense, right? Another one, of course, the water all through it. And I mean, look how intricately it's done. Like, if this is like a perfect, God knows how many sides it is, but you can see they've just cut this river straight through the middle, but the geometry is, you know, perfect still. So here's another actual star, 5-pointer, village inside, got our windmill here. This one, I'm not sure exactly where, but up in Scandinavia. There's a lot in Holland, Denmark sort of area, Finland, Norway. Bremen in Germany. The old town of Bremen was a star city. Charlemont, you know, just so many of these. There's some more. Here's a picture of Hamburg, again a walled city. And all these massive cathedrals. What are they about? Another star fort. This one's got the moat intact. This is in the USA, Fort Independence in Massachusetts. Nice 5-pointer. And like I said, when we get to places like America, the narrative starts to fall apart. Because, you know, they can't say this was built before 1700. I mean, there were people there, but Massachusetts, there would have been people there, but I mean, did they have the industry to build something like this? You know, when you look at the story of how it was built, it wouldn't make sense. But the other thing is, if we start excavating this, there's all this other stuff underneath. And we know this because we've seen hundreds of these stars with all the extra levels. This is called Fort Morgan, looking quite ancient, this one. Not sure what this in the middle is. Maybe some of the original workings of what this actually was, who knows? Because we still don't know exactly what they were. We're getting on it. We think, you know, we've got some pretty good ideas and hypotheses, and that's some things that we can prove. But as to what exactly they were, we're still, you know, not exactly sure. They were definitely multifunctional. This one is in Kinsale, and I mean, look at this wall straight into the ocean. Here you can see the multi-layers and just how tall these walls are. And look what's inside. Like, this is like a massive castle. It's like a palace, you know. Big palaces we see, like Versailles and stuff. So this is a huge construction, just this middle bit. And I mean, this is just a big, massive two-story building. So, I mean, the work and effort and materials that goes into building these is just immense. And this one is Starhoudsen in Holland. And pretty cool. Water's still intact. Looks like half of it's sort of gone. But again, we've got a whole village inside here. And the canal. The canals. We shall get into canals. This is Castillo de San Marco on St. Augustine. So on an island. And again, when you start talking about islands, you know, you've got to hit the question of where did all the material come from? All the bricks, all the cement, everything they need to build these. You know, most islands, you know, don't have big clay pits and all these, you know, all these natural resources. But they managed to whack this up. And again, an ocean wall built right into the ocean. And you can see the multi-layers as well. And like I said, lots of these are in the water. Look at this one. It's literally an island. Interesting shape. So I'm not sure we'd call this a star fort, but very interesting. And you can see these are, what, 3-4 story buildings inside. So this is quite a big construction right into the water. Another one. Circular one. You know, looking very old. You know, looking like there's bits that, you know, because again, straight into the water. How do they build that straight into the ocean? You know, it's not like they can build a wall around and stop the ocean coming in while they build it. And there's another bit out here. I'm not sure if that's new or old. Looks new. But a lot of these do seem to be flooded. This is the interior of a star fort, just to show you the construction. I mean, they're just, you know, they're not very fort-like. Here's another one out in the ocean. I mean, this one does look pretty machine-like, really, doesn't it? So, who knows? And again, you know, forts on islands don't make sense. You just sail around them. Because there's nothing on this island to conquer apart from the fort, but you just leave it. Here's a top view of that one. This is the inside of a star fort that they've turned into a holiday resort. Put a pool in there, redone it all, got their restaurant, and you can go stay there. And here's some remains of a star fort, and we see this a lot. Look at this wall, and see how it just sort of disappears into the landscape. And especially here, now it would be still there, it's just completely covered by earth. Up here and out there, and even up here there's more of it. So it goes right along this ridge. And talk about, doing things the hardest way you could. And, yeah, that would be good for defence, but, is this even possible back in the 1600s? And this is Fort Tilbury. And again, right on the ocean, with ocean walls, and then it's even got its own moat. And this, big buildings inside. So big. These things are really big. This would be a couple of acres at least. Probably more like 10. Another island fort, and this is a star fort, as you can see. And again, what's the point? This one's in Spain, and this is a good one, obviously an aerial view, but you can see how deep it goes. See these lines that run right down, and you can see the levels here, but there's still more underneath. If this needs to be uncovered all the way around, and then we'd see how big it was. And that's just the Citadel. This is, then there's obviously would be a star city attached to it. But, for defence. Another one right on the ocean. Town inside it. And another one in Holland again. Just everywhere, these things. Here's one. I believe this is Switzerland or around that kind of area. In ruins, obviously. This building's been destroyed. No roofs on these. All these. So just left. But look at that thing. And this is in Japan. Right, Japan. We're told these were built by the French and the Italian. Now, they didn't get into Japan, we're told, until, 1842? So how do they explain this? Right, they'd finished building them definitely by the 1800s. It said in Wikipedia, right, after the Napoleonic Wars, these things were ancient. So there you go. And this is Willemstad in the Netherlands. Again, a town. And the thing about these, they're kind of like the Nazca lines. We didn't know that they were stars or that they look like this until we could see them from above. Now, apart from that, they might look like forts or whatever, but to get the true sort of geometry, you need to see them from above. And here's another one. So I could literally go through the pictures like this all day because there are so many of these structures. And of course, I will be getting more into star forts. This is just an introduction to show you what they are and to sort of, tell you the narrative and to kind of break it a little bit as well, to show you that it doesn't really match up with what we see in the physical world around us. Of course, proving that history is actually just his story, just a narrative we've been fed. Another one in Russia, built by the French and Italians, apparently. So, a few things we will touch on in star forts in the future is, what are they? Now, they look a lot like fractal patterns. And if you've seen the work by Dr. Emoto, where he freezes water crystals with intention attached to them, and basically he gets geometric designs depending on the intention put into the water. And of course, water is always associated with these stars. And the patterns that he gets when he freezes the water when he freezes this water, it looks very similar to these designs we see on stars. And they are also very similar to musical waves, musical notes when they're played through things like oscillators. And you can see that the actual shape and form that they make very similar to all these stars. So we will get into all of that in future episodes. All right, thank you for spending some time with me, guys. Hope you liked that one. Star cities across the realm, and like I said at the start, they are everywhere, as we just saw. Every continent had them. They were everywhere, massive constructions, all in some kind of grid system. And this is what the old world was, right? A big, connected, free energy system that was built for mankind, to help mankind, to work for mankind, and in unison and harmony with the natural earth energies. And of course, that's pretty much exactly opposite to what we have today. So yeah, let's get out there. Let's put the energy out there. The world's shifting. The apocalypse is here. Ascension, all this kind of stuff. So keep the vibes high, guys. Focus into the future. Try and live, a couple of steps ahead of reality. Really start creating that future and live in the future and look back, as now as the past. And that way you can project forward, what the future is going to be and laugh at this silly stuff and see yourself in the future, wherever you want to be, successful, healthy, wealthy, all that kind of stuff. So thanks again for spending some time with me. Have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you all on the next upload. Bye for now.